kind of counterproductive to be patient, because you might be just seeing your profit go away. So instead of really trying to force yourself to be patient and like by default, I have to wait, try to align with the timing. But the biggest part of the waiting ability, because you have to always, like, how do you align with the timing, is you have to wait for your setup. And that is the patience that you need to have as a trader, to wait for your setup, right?
Right.
So,
and I've put up on the screen a great little chart that you've put together that sort of talks about the difference between the mentalities, or I would say it's more the action, right? Because a lot of people have the right mentality in that they go into the day saying, I'm going to be patient today and I'm going to allow my setups to do, but then we change on as soon as the first sort of, tick hits.
Yeah. And there are two things that I think are the biggest stimulators to do that. One thing is, when you go into the market with the best intentions to wait patiently for your setup, is you are entering the environment of uncertainty.
Right.
And it feels uncomfortable. And we as human beings, we have something that's called drive to completion. And that's a mechanism that makes us act to get out of the discomfort zone as soon as possible.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
when you are in that uncomfortable environment and you're like, oh, the market is moving and I'm sitting here and I feel uncomfortable, you are just trying to get into a trade as quickly as you can, because it doesn't feel comfortable to wait while you're seeing the market moving. Right?
I think that's
so
a great point.
Works against you.
Yeah, people really don't take into account is that really is it. Is when you're in the trade, you feel sort of, sometimes some traders are like singularly focused on that trade. And when they're not in the trade is when they let all the outside sort of voices speak to them, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that voice, like one thing is the voices from outside, but the voice from inside can be even stronger, because you are from naturally, you are trying to end the discomfort. And that voice is sort of overriding all your logical voices that say you should wait for your setup.
Right.
So just being even aware of the fact that, yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, and your job as a trader is to learn to handle that discomfort. And it is, yes, this is what you're getting paid for being able to handle the discomfort. Whether you are in a trade and you're trying to jump out too early because you have profit and you're like, oh my God, I might lose it. Or whether you are out of the trade and you are waiting for your setup, it's uncomfortable because you are seeing the movement and you feel like you are missing the profit. So both cases, it makes you do something that is against your best interest.
And I think you just brought up a great point that people don't take into account when they talk about patience. It's about patience when you're in the trade, not just entering the trade. That was a huge takeaway I got there that I hadn't really thought through, myself, is that it's not just about getting into that trade. It's when you're in that trade, how do you react? Do you close the trade too soon? Are you over trading? Are you allowing sort of the voices to creep in sometimes? Maybe is that maybe a signal? I know for me, it can be when I start second guessing, and not even second guessing, but triple guessing and quadruple, and start to sort of get like those racing thoughts competing for my mind, is when I know it's time to take a step away. So is it sometimes that it just you sort of get overloaded, and that's what causes you to make a trade?
I think that definitely you get overloaded, and when you are not aware of it, it just makes things worse, because you are simply being reactive. And if you are not aware that you can even expect those things to happen, it means you are not really prepared to operate in the conditions that you are exposing yourself to. So you are going into the market, and then all these forces are exercising their power on you, and you're just being reactive. Just like the drive to completion is making you trying to get out of that situation as soon as possible, and you're just acting like being very impulsive. So that's one thing. Now, another thing is our urge to do something is really fueled by the belief that what most of people have is you have to work hard in order to succeed.
Absolutely. We've talked about that before, where that is
Yes,
a big, misconception that is in our psyche that's hard to sort of recognize that it's even there. We've talked about this so many
right,
times, is some of these things, it's just really hard to even realize that they are there on our own. Sometimes we get, I used to call it in the restaurant, we used to get a tunnel vision, again, where you wouldn't notice that something was getting dirty, or that there, one day there was one cup on a shelf and now there was 8 cups on the shelf.
right,
Because as you
right.
walk by, there's not that disconnect where you almost need an outside influence. Do you find that that really is one of the things that you help provide to your clients?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so interesting. Like when we speak, we always speak out our beliefs. And because it's so true to us, we are not realizing that sometimes those beliefs, and a lot of times, those beliefs can be very limiting, even though they seem just like a normal sentence you say.
Right.
So, just give you an example. I had a conversation actually this morning with one of my clients, and he was saying that he feels like market is like has beaten him up because
Right.
for 3 straight days it was down, and he said, and I don't short the market. I like buying.
The dip, right.
And I said,
That's a tough, it's tough. You got to play that market in front of you, or you have to have
yeah,
really amazing patience, like you're saying, and discipline not to jump in too early. And I will point out,
exactly,
there was a few, and that's why you brought it up this morning. I think it's important again to re-emphasize with our viewers. Let those first couple of seconds of the tick at 9:30 when the cash market opens open. Everybody thinks that's
right,
because there's so many people and there's such access to trading before 9:30 that there isn't like something that happens. But what people don't realize is, for traders that are working in cash accounts, that cash account starts at 9:30. They can't trade in the other hours. So it is very important.
right,
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I have to point out why that is so important. That
yeah,
9:30, it is. And some people think it's like a psychological threshold. It isn't. It's actually when a big part of the market right now that is trading and day trading that are using cash accounts to avoid what's called PDD, or daily
yes,
transaction limits,
right.
and they're using it. So I just wanted to point that out. Sorry, because
Yeah, that's all right. It's perfect. And the like actually that brought the analogy. Like if you know, because like if you are trading the open, let's say this is your setup, fine. But most people don't trade the open. They trade
right.
the open because they jump in too early. So just imagine you're going to a theater, right? And when before the whole performance starts, the curtain opens and then there is music and there is a pause right before actually the act starts, before something happens. There is this pause and this stillness.
Yeah.
Everyone waits. There is this build up. It's not like the actors are jumping on the stage and start doing things. No, it's like this moment even before concerts, like everyone claps
Right. And then it
quiet
gets quiet.
before it starts.
Yeah.
So just see market opening also at that moment, like just give it a moment to breathe, right? There's a lot of pressure. This pressure has to like explode. And this is what you see in the price. It first explodes, it's
Right.
very volatile. Just let it settle before the orchestra start playing so you can actually attune to the tune of the market and feel, oh, okay, this is where we are going.
I couldn't agree more. It is one of the things that we talk about every morning at 9:30, let things settle, let it see what it is,
Yeah,
because it's also so hard. There's so much data and people don't understand the full concept of that data. A lot of people have
right.
heard of advanced decline line, which is the amount of stocks that are opening in the green, or that are currently green or in the plus, versus red in the negative, and it gives you a plus or minus. what people don't realize is there's somewhere in the vicinity of 1,500 to 2,000 stocks that, again, don't trade outside of the 9:30 to 4 o'clock hours. They don't trade after hours. So there's a big switch. So I've seen people who are so gung-ho and, they're saying, well, the advanced declines plus 1,100, I'm ready. And then they turn around at 9:31 and they say the advanced decline, like today, was down 500 then. What happened? Well, guess what? All of the pent-up business that was getting ready to be done on the open on all of those other stocks went to the downside, and it took the market with it, right?
Yeah. So like before you jump into the water, just see first, like, what is the terrain? Like, is it even safe to jump into the water? Is this something that, the timing is really everything. And the more you sink in with the timing of the market, the more profitable you will be, because it's really all about the moment when you enter. Like if you sometimes look at the chart where you have taken the loss and you look 10 minutes later, like, if I had only waited. Yes, because it's all about timing. So don't be too eager. There will be so many opportunities.
Absolutely.
The market goes up and down the whole day. So what's the rush?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And especially, what I will point out to viewers too, it is tough to be a perma bull or a perma bear, as you mentioned, one of your clients, because the market, it's hard, that's where you even have to have more patience, right? For that trader, he or she has to really make sure that everything's in line, because if you buy the dip at the wrong time, as you said, you try to catch a falling knife and you cut off your hand sometimes.
Right. No, absolutely. And this was actually when we talked about it more. The interesting thing was that the belief of, I have to work hard. And when I don't do anything, when I just sit here, it feels like I'm lazy. Because he grew up in an environment where his parents were always working really hard, and he saw that it brought a big success to his family. So he feels like he has to do something. And also for his wife was brought up in the same way. So, you don't want to just sit there and like do nothing, because what does it say about you? So you have to realize that doing the mental work of not trading is harder than actually going and chopping wood or doing something physical,
Yeah, but what I'll point out is
difficult.
Most of the successful traders, and again, educators that I talk to all the time on Quasar, none of them trade 20, from 9:30 even to 4 straight. They're always taking breaks. I'm talking to them throughout the day. We have a phone call here, or they always have 15 minutes or 20 minutes to come on the show. And the reason is that that's something that they learn is, again, there's thousands of stocks out there. So one setup doesn't make or break your trading day. It shouldn't even make your trading day, never mind your week or month. And that, you need to step away from the market on a regular basis. In fact, the most successful traders I know do all separate themselves multiple times a day. And it might just be going to have a cup of coffee, going to the water cooler to have a little talk with their friends or whatever. But you have to have that disconnect a little bit, right?
Yeah. And it's easy to say, but it's more difficult to do when you have those beliefs behind steering you to feel bad about yourself if you do walk away. You know what I mean? Because when you believe you are lazy when you don't trade, and trade is usually seen as making trades, that is the part where we have control over, where we can reframe and say trading 80% of the time means sitting and working mentally of not getting into the trade, or doing other things, looking at new opportunities, journaling, evaluating your trades. There's a lot of work you can do.
So many important little things right in that one line there is, again, you look at professional traders, and I'm not talking quant scalpers, because that's a different world than they're working, and computers are doing their work. They're not doing it with their fingers. You should be spending most of the educators I've talked to that I give the most value to will tell you 80% is getting your setups right, and only 20% is actually trading. It's identifying and waiting is 80% of your day should basically be doing that. You're analyzing what's going on. You're getting your setups in place. You're looking for the perfect one. And that's the other part is people good enough is not good enough in trading, right?
Right. Good enough is not good enough. But the problem here is, and I think this is really, this might be really very helpful to everyone who listens, is the working of the dopamine, the neurotransmitter in your brain. So that is something that is a reward chemical, basically, something that it's being produced in your head when you are thinking about how rewarded you will get. So the moment that you see the setup and you start talking to yourself, oh my God, this is going to be good. This is going to make me money. And you will jump into it because the dopamine will make you feel invincible.
We're almost
and you
already in the trade, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly.
From the
You're
setup.
already spending the money you haven't made yet, right? So you have to realize that you are sort of creating that situation to make yourself be impatient, right?
Right.
So now it's a little bit similar to vacation. If you go on vacation, you are booking it first, you're planning it, and then usually you have to wait some time, right? There's not many people that book vacation and go the next day.
Right.
So that feeling of, oh my God, this is going to be good, and you research and you look and you sort of imagining how it's going to be, you laying and under the palm tree at the ocean, and yes, that feeling, it's making the whole vacation seem really, really good. And then the reward is sweet. Sometimes it's actually thinking about it is much better than being there because once you're there,
hopefully
it's
not,
just a
but
reality.
I've been there. Yes.
Yeah. But just that sweetness of preparing yourself and imagining it. So now take that dynamic that you normally use for your vacation or something you're really looking forward to, and bring it into trading when you imagine your A+ setup. It will help you wait for it. If you say, oh, okay, I can take this setup, but it's not really great. But if I take that A+ setup, the reward will be sweet. And then start making yourself sort of excited about the whole run up to that point where the A+ setup shows up.
That's a great point, because for me, that is a part, I guess, that I take for granted, is that for me, as soon as I put that line on the chart, the one that I've been using so much lately has been, the Tesla chart. I've just it's just one of those ones that to me, it's been, fairly easy to read. But once I put that line at that spot,
330? Is it 330?
330.
It's funny. I have that line on my chart too, 330. I've had it for
I even have little
months.
googly eyes watching it. So for me, I have to draw little pretty pictures to keep me from getting in too quickly here. But I actually posted this was because I was posted on X. But I do love this setup. But again, we haven't quite got there today. I'm waiting. I have to see it to make that move to get in on it. But that's part of a trader, is getting excited about the setup. But as you said, the harder part is not to jump in until the setup actually executes and plays out. Too many times I've been on the wrong side of that when I was an early trader, where I'd say, oh, we're almost there, I'm ready. What's a dollar here or a dollar there? Those add up very quickly, don't they?
They do. And I think it's also, realizing that if you enter on anticipation, then you got to manage your risk even better than any other time, because if you don't, then you're like, oh, I enter here and then it goes completely the other way. You just cannot wait. Then you really have to be impatient. And if you are sticking to the loser, so realize how patient you are, because how long have you been waiting many times for the loser to come back? So don't talk
that's
yourself
like we've talked about. That is where you should not have patience.
Exactly. But
because
realize that if you do, then don't tell yourself you're impatient, because you're being selective when you're patient and when you're impatient,
Don't
so
tell me that. You mean I'm being selective? You mean what my wife has been telling me is true? I'm selective to even listening to myself. And I thought it was only the outside voices, not my own inside voice.
We always lie about something to ourselves, So the question is like, what is it that you are lying to yourself when you are acting against your best interest? And there is always something you can discover, but that does require self-reflection and the ability to listen to yourself and be honest with yourself.
Absolutely. Agnieszka, I know that we talked a little bit about maybe doing it today, but I think what I want to do is try to do our show on Wednesday at 12 o'clock, really be an Ask Agnieszka Anything show. So I think if we advertise it a little bit first, we'll get a lot of people here. I think it would be great. I'm the one that always asks you all the questions. I'd like to have some of our viewers be able to ask questions through our comments. So again, we'll definitely do that this upcoming Wednesday at 12 o'clock. We'll do an Ask Agnieszka Anything. We'll have some other stuff and some things to prompt some questions, but I think that would be great. I know that I ask you a million questions a week, and it has helped my trading. And more importantly for me, it's helped my life more than my trading, quite honestly, because what you've provided for me is that ability to sort of slow everything down a little bit. And, you know, like you said, you know, don't react as much as responding, you know, is what I've really taken to heart from you. And it's really definitely helped me in my trading and just having that work-life balance that we all try to have here. Thank you so much. What are the last words of the day today,
Agnieszka? I think, you know, building on what you said, just be in integrity with yourself, because in the end, it is about the quality of your life. It's about the balance. Don't make yourself too crazy about whether it's trading, whether it's your work, whether it's, you know, anything else in your life. It's really the most important thing is that you have the integrity with yourself. So don't lie to yourself. Be at least honest with yourself, because that will go a long way.
I couldn't agree more. You know, if you can't make peace within yourself, how are you going to, you know, have a good outward look to everybody else out there? So again, thank you so much, Agnieszka. We will see you on Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Howard.